Sorry about that, guys. We had a little slight connection issue there, didn't we?
Yes, we did. Trust me.
But of course, we're here. We're going to try again, guys. Like I said, we're talking to obviously the Iceman. We've got loads of stuff to talk about, his career in wrestling, how he got into the deathmatch scene, and so much more. But as always, roll the intro. The good thing is we're doing better than last time. Oh dear. Iceman, like I said, mate, how's the week been for you?
As I said earlier on, I'm jet lagged to fuck, mate, and I'm beat up, and I just need a good sleep. Really, I've slept all week.
Dear. You got the weekend? Have you got something planned, or are you gonna have to go back out?
No, they spend time with the missus. I think I'm going to go to the cinema to see the new Salem's Lot. I think.
Mm-hmm. Awesome,
I like me horror films.
Oh, with Halloween coming up as well. What's your favourite horror film?
Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat. No, but people still like Michael Myers and stuff like that, them type of things. So that's quite surprising.
Yeah. Trick or Treat. It's like a little hidden gem. It's brilliant. It's like one of those anthology horror films.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Awesome. So yeah, obviously we're talking about your career today in wrestling. I say this to everyone, obviously I interview. If there's anything I asked and you don't feel comfortable answering, you just say next question, we move on. But I think we established in the introduction you're quite open, guys. That fair?
Yeah, spot on, mate.
Of course. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? How does your career begin into obviously the deathmatch scene?
Well, as I said before, I've loved Mick Foley. I remember watching. I don't know whether you might be too young, but when Sky TV first came out, we had German channels, and there was a German channel called RTL that used to run all WCW. Well, it actually wasn't all WCW then; it was fresh WCW, and there was the Vader and Cactus Jack match where they basically beat the crap out of each other. And I was like, because I was only brought up with like World of Sport, and I never saw anything like that. And I saw Mick Foley and Mick Foley, sorry, and Vader beat the crap out of each other. And I was like, oh my God, this is like next level. I'd never seen anything like it. And from then, like, that was it. I just wanted to, I loved that kind of wrestling. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what was that first match like for you, that type of match?
As I say, it was something different. I was just usually used to seeing like Big Daddy and all like the razzmatazz of the world of sport. And when I saw like Cactus Jack taking those bumps and those chair shots and just Vader pummeling him and that, and like back then, obviously, it was still in debate whether this was real, this was scripted, this was, do you know what I mean? And excuse me, but then I was like, no, but you can't fake that. You can't fake that, which obviously you can't fake falling into concrete like Cactus Jack did. And I was like, you can't fake that. And it was brilliant. Made that, it just completely, that was it for me.
Awesome. And talk about obviously what goes into a death match. You know what I mean? What planning goes into that? Because I imagine there's a hell of a lot of planning to go with it.
Believe it or not, mate, believe it or not, there's just as much planning, just the same kind of planning goes into a death match as there is in a normal match. You get your start, your middle, and your finish. That's it.
Really?
You just
Okay.
with weapons.
And we've already got our first question in, by the way, from Simon Gibb. He says, "What's the most dangerous weapon you've used in a death match?"
The most dangerous weapon I've used in a death match. Now then, now you're asking me. The most dangerous I would think is fire because fire is very unpredictable. But up until about a month ago, I swore that I would never use syringes.
Oh wow!
Yes, I would. I always said I would never use needles. Never use needles. and I was up in Blade and Gums, up in Scotland, with a wrestler called Jack. Oh man, my goodness, my mind's gone blank. And anyway, his gimmick is he uses needles, and I thought to myself, "Fuck it." Are you a fan of Always Sunny in Philadelphia?
Yes.
Yes. Well, you know the part where Frank Reynolds says, where he's stoned and he says, "I don't know how long I've got left on this planet, but I'm going to get real weird with it."
Yep.
I said to myself, "I don't know how long I've got left in this job, but I'm going to get real weird with it." And I decided that there and then, I'm going to use syringes, and the fucking hurt like crazy.
I dare even ask where it actually got put, like, so, but I'm gonna anyway.
Through each nostril.
Oh, wow. Ouch. Never again?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. If the money's right, yeah.
Oh dear. So I imagine with like deathmatch wrestling, a lot of injuries come as well. What's the injury thing? What's the most injuries we've got?
Well, deathmatch wrestling, I broke ribs, fractured heels, broke my collarbones twice, numerous concussions. I've had both ears glued back on. What else have I had? But the most painful one was the cracked ribs. I have never had pain like it. I
Wow.
literally thought I was going to die. I thought it was a suplex in 1PW off Bad Bones, and he suplexed me off the top through a table. And I'm not joking you know, the wind just instantly came out of me.
Yep.
And I sat up and I thought, "This is it, I'm taking my last breath, I'm going to die." The pain was unbelievable. And I only cracked 2 ribs, but I've never felt pain like it.
Oh
I
wow.
thought
And
it was the end.
how long did they take to heal?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know, because there's nothing you can do for broken ribs. They just take painkillers. So I wrestled the next weekend, put it that way.
Wow. And what's the recovery time for a death match? Is it like a couple of days, or does it all depend how violent the match is?
It all made it all depends. It's like the weekend. I had a um, I had a no rope barbed wire match on the Friday. I had a light tube death match on the Sunday, and I had like a hardcore anything goes match on the Friday Saturday, and then a hardcore anything goes match on the Sunday. So really, there is no injury time. There is no healing time. Where you just got to go with it.
Wow. And how do you keep going? Do you know what I mean? Because I just thinking about it now, it's like, wow, what keeps you going? Is it the adrenaline? Is it just something?
It's got. I must love it, mate. That's the only thing I can. I'm 50 next year,
Mm-hmm.
and the only thing I can say is I must love it. And that's the only thing that keeps. I've talked to me like other deathmatch wrestlers. There's nothing like it. There's nothing. It's like when you've got that blood running down. I know it sounds sick and sadomasochistic, but when you've got that blood running down your face, and then the fans are chanting for you and that, and there's no feeling like it. There's no feeling like it on earth. The buzz, the high you get off that is unbelievable.
It's crazy. Like I say, I mean, that's one of my things. I love to go and see one. I've not been able to see one in person yet, but that's obviously on my bucket list to do.
Really, you've never saw a death match.
I've not seen one in
You,
person. I've seen one obviously on like
that's what I'm
on
saying.
YouTube.
You don't know what you're missing, mate. You don't know what you're missing.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait for it and stuff like that. So, a couple of promotions you've obviously worked for. And the first one I want to talk about is WZW. Talk about working there.
Mate, it was brilliant. It was what happened. I hadn't been wrestling long, and I'd been wrestling about 2 or 3 years, and up until then, it was only majorly once a month, here, there, and everywhere. Do you know what I mean? A couple of places. And there was a gentleman by the name of Gary Graham who ran a website called WrestleZone Wrestling. And he got in contact and he said, like, "I'm starting a promotion up with another wrestler called GTS, General Trent Steele." He said, "I'm starting a promotion up where we lived, where I live in the north of England. There was only one place, IWF, and mate, they were dog shit rotten. There's only two good wrestlers ever came out of it. One was Pac and the other one's Assassin.
Mm-hmm.
And but the rest were just dog shit. And excuse me, so Gary Graham said, "Would you be interested in coming and working for it?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "No problem." I thought it was just going to be like a one and done, but no, they promoted for years and they ran some incredible shows. And they had this training school, and I became one of the coaches in the training school. And it, some great wrestlers came out of there. Some awesome wrestlers came out of there.
Yeah, and I'm looking at some of your matches. I mean, you were in the ring with Jake Roberts. God damn it, what was that like?
Oh, mate, oh my God. Right. I cringe. I knew this was going to come up every time. Yeah, what happened? This is when Jake was really, really bad. He came over in England and he didn't have his snake. He stabbed his snake to death. Can you remember it was in the papers?
Yep.
Yeah, he stabbed his snake to death. And anyway, I was in Dumfries, and what it was, I was main Jake. Obviously, main Jake was on the main event, and he was sitting drinking like I would drink a can of Coke. He was just drinking famous grouse whiskey, two bottles, big bottles of famous grouse whiskey. He was just drinking it. And the same night, he had a fight with Alex Shane of FWA. He said something derogatory about Alex Shane's mother, and Alex Shane just went for him, which I don't blame him at all. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, got in the ring with Jake, and Jake was on another planet, wobbly legs, and you name it. And I tied up with him, and just he wasn't there. And basically, I wrestled myself.
Wow.
And it come to the point with the DDT, and I had to get myself in the DDT, and I just like Jake fell, and I just went with it for the DDT. And I was, you could at some points in the during the match, we were on the ring on the outside, and you could see me shout at him, "Jake, you're a joke, and that was as shoot as possible. It wasn't that wasn't I wasn't just being the bad guy villain. That was shooting. I was telling him, "You're a joke, you're a joke." Do you know what I mean? Because these kids had paid to see him, and
Yep.
he had no respect for these kids and these families. Do you know what I mean? That he was just drinking and drinking and drinking. And I know the poor fella's he's an alcoholic. Do you know what I mean? But at the time, I just thought it was a little bit. Now, as I'm grown up, I know more about alcoholism and things like that. You learn things, and obviously, you couldn't help it. It's a disease. But
Mm-hmm.
at the time, I was pissed. Do
Yeah,
you
I
know what I
can
mean?
believe
But
it.
I've never been so pleased to hear a referee count three in my life. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it was over. Now, thank goodness it was over. I think it was the worst 10 minutes of my life. The
Wow.
longest, anyway.
Yeah, I can imagine. And the other name, obviously, from that as well, which a lot of people mention, is Tony Spitfire. Talk about that.
My best pal in the entire world, mate. There's nobody like Tony Spitfire. He's when I first started in WZW, he'd wrestled a few times before, like he'd wrestled for I forget who he was trained by now, but he was wrestling elsewhere, and he came into WZW, and oh mate, I hated him. I couldn't stand him, and it was exact everything I hated. Loudmouth, hated him, and we were we went to Scotland for BCW, and we got talking, and it turned out he loved World of Sport,
Mm-hmm.
and I love World of Sport, and that's where like we bonded, and we were best mates ever since.
Absolutely crazy. And Simon Gibbs sent another question in. He said, "How high of a pain tolerance is needed to be in a death match?"
Very high, mate. Nobody. You can't just get in and be a deathmatch wrestler. You've got to be able to take it, mate. I've seen people come in and like literally stand on one drum pin. I'm like, oh my god, oh my god. Do you know what I mean? You try getting 1,000 of them in your feet. Do you know what I mean? You've got to have a high tolerance of pain. It's not for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the big promotion you're obviously well known for is obviously 1PW. We know a lot about the history and stuff like that, but I mean, you were a big part of that. Let's be honest.
Yes, I was.
Talk about
I
some of
don't
your
know whether that's
memories
a
from
good
one.
thing or a bad thing.
I'll let you talk about that. Talk about your memories and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, what happened? Stephen Gauntly, he had a online website, like a shop, a wrestling shop, One Up Games, and I remember seeing it in a wrestling magazine, an advert. So I phoned him up because my son wanted some wrestling, like my Jack wanted some wrestling stuff for Christmas. So I phoned him up and said, "Yeah," he said, "come down to the shop." He said, "We'll sort you out." I said, "No problem." I didn't mention anything that I was a wrestler or anything like that. And when I was down there, I mentioned, "Oh, I'm a wrestler and all this." Oh, and to tell you the truth, I don't think he believed me. And then the next couple of weeks, I got an email from him that he was starting 1PW. Would I be interested in coming down? I said, "Yeah," I said, not a problem at all." And it just went on from there.
Yeah,
He
and
said,
there's
"We're
some
going to
great.
have big, he said, we're going to have big things. It's going to be this. We're doing the Doncaster Dome, huge shows and huge names and all this." And I'd heard it 1,000 times, and he pulled it off.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest feud, obviously, I remember from 1PW is obviously you and Herman. Talk about working with him. Oops, he froze.
Phoning.
Are you still here, pal?
It was my wife phoning.
All right, okay.
2 minutes, mate. Go on, can you hear me? It's all right.
Yep, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear? This is what happens when I do it on the phone.
This is what happened when it's live.
Fuck. Can you hear me now?
I don't know if he's talking
2
to me
minutes,
or not.
mate.
All right, pal. We'll try and get him back on. This is
I'm
really
back.
fast.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah. My wife's phoning, but never mind. Go on.
Yeah, so I was talking about obviously the biggest feud I remember from you 1PW days is obviously you and Ulf. Talk about working with Ulf.
Oh, mate, he was a pleasure. He was a gentleman to work with. He. What happened was Steve Gauntly, when all the Americans came in, like the likes of myself, Martin Stone, and the British lads all got pushed aside. And to his credit, at the time, Steve Gauntly was like, "No, I want to push some of the British lads." And he said, "I want to." And he came to me and he said, "I want to put you in a match with Ulf. I want to put you in a program with Ulf." I was like, "Oh yeah, that's no problem." I'd known Ulf from FWA and things like that. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "No problem." And he's a sweetheart. He's one of the nicest people I've ever met in wrestling, and I enjoyed every second of it.
Yeah, he's
Every
incredible.
second of it.
A lot of people say he was like the locker room leader. Is that fair?
Yes, guaranteed, guaranteed.
Of
Beyond a
course,
shadow
of
of a
course,
doubt, that was Ulf.
of course. Is there any like good memories, obviously, beside all that from 1PW?
Good memories, yeah. One time, I'm saying it's a good memory. We laugh about it now. They done a comeback show. Will 1PW will not die, and obviously it wasn't Stephen Gauntly. It was a company called 3CW based up in Teesside,
Yep.
and it was a fella called Mike Groom. And anyway, there was Mike Groom and Dragon Izu was promoting it. So one was paying me. We agreed that one would pay me wage. One would pay me wage, and one would pay me exes. Okay. So anyway, Dragon Eyes who paid, I'd done the match. I went through fire and everything in the match. It was actually me and Ulf, and I went to a table set on fire and that. And then we came to the end of the night. Dragon Eyes who paid me, and I went to my groom, and I said to Mike, I said, I'm ready to go now, Mike. I said, have you got me exes? He went, "I'm busy." And at the time, I used to be a born again Christian, and I was like, "Patience, Isaac, patience." I said, "Mike," I said, like at the time, my Jack was only a little child, and I had my nephew with me. And he said, I said, "Mike," I said, "I'm ready to go." I said, "We got them wages, them exes, sorry." He went, "Do you want pain or don't you?" And he proceeded to give me a bag of pound coins,
Oh, okay.
right? Yeah, I literally a bag my exes, we went to pay me in a bag of pound coins. Okay, so basically I just darted for him. You know when you see red?
Yeah, yeah.
I saw red and I just darted for him over a table. And it was Old Firman who pulled me off him. Otherwise, I was going to shove the pound coins up his ass.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know. I don't even know how to follow up on that one. I'll be honest with you. It's just. Yeah. What can I say to that?
You wasn't expecting that one, was you?
No, I know the story. Obviously, I've read the book, so I know that story's obviously in there.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it was a good experience. Do you know what I mean? There was a few shitty times. Do you know what I mean? There was times when matches got changed to suit other people, and there was a mega egos and that. Do you know what I mean? And there was times when it wasn't look like we were getting paid and all this stuff. But overall, it was a good experience because it learned you about the wrestling business. It learned you
Yep.
what not to do and how to deal with things. Do you know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah.
And one of the best things that came out of it, I got to meet Tracy Smothers.
What a legend, by the way.
And yes, and I became good friends with Tracy Smothers. Do you know what I mean? And that was priceless. Yeah, that was worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you think when they obviously come back, obviously recently and stuff like that? Because I remember you being at the new Twist of Fate.
Right. Well, what happened? That was in the works for a couple of years, and at the time I wasn't wrestling, and it was who runs BWR. Forget what you call him. He thinks
Devlin?
he's Dean Ambrose.
Is it Tyler
Anyway,
Devlin?
that's the one. He took a silly bump off the balcony through on the floor.
I remember that. I was
Anyway,
there.
then walked around afterwards, like fucking selling, you idiot. He literally walked around afterwards, no limp. If it had been me, I'd have still been on the stretcher. I'd have still been selling the injury. Do you know what I mean? But he walked around afterwards. Anyway, Tyler Devlin. I'm just venting there. I do apologise.
It's fine. Carry
Tyler
on.
Devlin. Anyway, Tyler Devlin kept contacting me, and I was like, "No, I'm not. I can't be bothered. I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back." But anyway, I started wrestling again, and he messaged me. I said, "Yes, I'll come back. That's no problem." But what I was told was Steve Gauntly was just like there to help.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Gauntly had nothing to do with it, but Steve Gauntly was as much involved as anybody. Do you know what I mean? But at the time, I never had no problem with Steve Gauntly at the time. And as I say, I got the chance to tag with my son
Mm-hmm.
in the Doncaster Dome. And, like my son had grown up in the Doncaster Dome. So I got the chance to tag with him in the Doncaster Dome, which was brilliant, which was something I thought would never happen. So I'm grateful for that. But anyway, what happened was the tag match was brilliant. I enjoyed the tag match. I enjoyed working with Ulf again. And it was overall, it was like a mixed feelings because at the time when I was originally in the Doncaster Dome, there was a lot going on in my personal life. So it
Mm-hmm.
kind of brought all of those feelings back. Do you know what I mean? So it was bittersweet. It was good to be back, but it was kind of a bit of a painful. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
But anyway, what happened afterwards? It was meant to be me and Ulf. Like my Jack turned on me. My Jack and Clint Margera turned on me. And it was going to be me and Ulf against there were those two
Mm-hmm.
on the next show. But next show came and went, and no mention. Next show came and went, no mention. So I messaged Steve Gorley, and I said, "Steve, mate, I said, you've asked me to come back for 1PW. I said, you've just dropped me off these shows." And I said, "We're going in a different way now. We're coming away from the death match and the hardcore. We're going in a different way. We've got sponsorships and we've got this." Because apparently there was some deal with Dunkin' Donuts or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, "You joking me?" But I never said anything. I was like, "You joking me?" Like it was. If you look at the old one PW, it was my matches with Martin Stone, my
Yep.
matches with Ulf Herman, the Noro barbed wire match with Abyss and Steve Corino. That's what put one PW on the map. Yes, there was some great wrestling, but alongside that, the death match, the hardcore, the extreme, that was as big as part as anything as putting one PW on the map. And I was like, what a slap in the face to say, "Oh, you're going a different way now." So I said to my Jack, I said, "That's me and Steve Godley finished." I said, "That's it, done and dusted." So anyway, he messaged me again about he was going to do some deathmatch shows, some small deathmatch shows. And I was like, "Stephen, no." And I told him point blank, I said, "Stephen," I said, "definitely not." I said, "I feel like you've slapped me in the face. You've told me that you're going in a different direction. And I feel like you just completely slapped me in the face. Do you know what I mean?"
Yeah, yeah.
And my Jack was like, "Oh, Dad, you've been horrible. You've been horrible. We'll work the shows. Think of the money, Dad. Think of the money." And I was like, "All right, then, no problem. I'll agree to work these deathmatch shows." Okay. So I agreed to work them. And then the show, they came and went. And obviously, Steve Gorley disappeared. No more shows, no nothing. Not even a message, not even a "sorry, I can't make this booking," and all this. So I messaged Steve Gorley. I said, "Go, Stephen." I said, "I don't care whether you run the Royal Albert Hall." I said, "Do not message me ever again because I do not want to work for you." I said, "I don't care if you've got millions and millions of pounds in backers." I said, "Do not message me. I want nothing at all to do with you." And I left it at that. And as far as I'm concerned, that's it. It's me, Stephen Gauntly, done.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So another fan sent a question in. We'll obviously move swiftly on. Ali Caney said, "Did you ever wrestle Lionheart? And have you got any BCW stories?"
Yes, I did wrestle Lionheart. A good friend of mine, and we had some fun. Speaking of Lionheart and BCW, one match we was wrestling Lionheart in, Adrian. Tony Spitfire wasn't on the show because he broke his leg. He didn't break his leg. He'd had to have operation on his legs. So Tony Spitfire wasn't on the show. So in BCW, we used to do a gimmick where I was the deathmatch wrestler, Tony Spitfire was the technical wrestler, and we used to stop the matches so Tony Spitfire could out being out there like how could people used to tell me, "Oh, you're just a glorified backyard wrestler. You don't know how to wrestle. You don't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch." So what we used to do, we used to stop matches halfway through, and I used to get Tony Spitfire to teach me a wrestling hold so I could do the wrestling hold. We used to play up to that. And at one point where it really got over, so it's one time in the Kilmarnock, in the Kilmarnock Grand Hall, I was wrestling Lionheart, and halfway through, what they call him now, Screwface. You've heard of
Yep.
Screwface?
I have. Yes.
Well, Screwface, he was a trainee at the time, and Screwface came out with a phone, and he said, "Iceman, Spitfire's on the phone." This was during the match, and like I had Adrian down, like Lionheart down, and like I was relaying, I was doing what Spitfire was telling me to do during the match. Like he was saying, "Kick him," and I said, "I'm kicking him," and he said, I said, "But he's getting back. What should I do again?" He said, "Kick him again." So I kicked him again. I said, "It's not working. It's not working." He said, "Punch him." So I punched him. Do you know what I mean? And it got really, the fans were loving it. They lapped it up.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. So you mentioned Jack obviously earlier on and stuff like that. This is kind of like a two-part question. What's it like tagging with him, and what's it like being in the ring with him as well? Because I know you faced each other.
Right, mate. Well, what happened? Long story short with my Jack, he wanted to be a wrestler since knee high. He was brought up in the wrestling business. Do you know what I mean? And I always tried to put it off. I didn't want him being a part of the wrestling business. And what happened? He does charity events, like he does like dares for charity. And like to raise money for people and raise money for the homeless and things like this. And at one point, there was this little boy who got mauled by a dog,
Oh.
and he said, I'm gonna do something to raise money for him to get him some toys and that. Do you know what I mean?"
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I said, "I've got an idea, Jack." I said, "What?" He said, "What?" I said, "Do a wrestling match." And it was the biggest mistake I ever made in my life because it literally opened the door for him. And Rise was up in Middlesbrough where we live. And I messaged like the owner of Rise and I said, "Listen," told him what the plan was, what that was happening. And he said, "Yeah," he said, "We'll put him on with Leonardo Darwin and we'll see how we go from there." And it was great. I think he raised about £1,200 for the little boy. And he got the bug. He got the wrestling bug. And it just went from there. And the tag with him was, as I say, like a dream come true. Something that I thought would never ever happen. Do you know what I mean? Because as I say, I didn't want him in the wrestling, but to have him there in the ring with me, tagging with me. And what I thought was, well, when I originally got into the wrestling, I thought, well, he's going to be shit. I'll let him have a match, let him be
Mm-hmm.
shit, let him realise how much it hurts, and then he won't do it again. But as I say, he got the bug,
Yep.
and he was fucking good. And it just, as I said, just went on from there. And anyway, in Rise, in Leeds, we started like a program, him against me. And the matches we've had out of it was like we've had two in England, and we had the final on, like the final father and son in America at the weekend. And
Mm-hmm.
fans were eating it up, mate. It was the best thing ever, the best thing ever.
He
The
is.
first
I've
one,
seen. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I said the
Carry on.
first one, the stipulation was um, last man standing. So he couldn't keep me down. So in order for him to keep me down for the 10 count, he literally nailed my ear to the ring canvas.
Oh wow.
So yeah. He nailed my ear so I couldn't get up. And the second one was on Halloween. And he came out as Jason and I came out as Freddy with the razor blade gloves and that. We literally tore each other to pieces. It was that bloody one of the bar staff in the venue passed out and had to go home.
Oh wow.
Couldn't handle it. In the same match, I brought, yeah, and I brought a chainsaw out, and people were saying, "Oh, it's just a fake chainsaw. It's a fake chainsaw." And I saw the piece of wood in half, like Jack dodged out the way, and he put like a piece of wood in front of him, and I saw the wood in half. Do you know what I mean? To prove that it was a real chainsaw.
Wow.
And
This is
the last
crazy.
one, yeah, and the last one was last Friday, like a week tonight. Is it Thursday or Friday today? Friday.
Friday.
Yeah, it was a week today. A no rope barbed wire match in New Jersey last week. And the American fans loved it. So that's it. Yeah, loved every minute of it.
That is crazy. That is absolute crazy. I'm going to be honest.
That's deathmatch wrestling, mate.
It is, of course. So, what's obviously some of your highlights when you look back? Obviously, what you've achieved. I'm not talking about the ones we've obviously discussed. What about other ones?
Well, one of the big things was getting to meet Mick Foley.
Mm-hmm.
Because as I said before at the beginning, I idolized Mick Foley. And I got the chance to, he was a referee in one of my matches. And then the following night, it was me, Alex Shane, Sticks and Stones against Sandman, Tommy Dreamer, Mick Foley, and Paul Travell. No, sorry, Steve Queen and Paul Travell. Do you know what I mean? So I didn't not only get to spend the weekend with him, I got to wrestle him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, fuck, do you know what I mean? I've never ever dreamed that would come true. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully it happened.
Of course, absolutely. So here we are. Obviously, now you've done so much, obviously, in your career and stuff like that. What's left for you, obviously, to do?
Nothing now, mate. nothing. As I say, I had what was on my bucket list was to wrestle Jack in three matches,
Mm-hmm.
to wrestle Matt Tremont and go to America. And thankfully, I've done all three.
Wow. There you go. I mean, you've achieved everything you want to do. I mean, everyone knows who you are. Everyone knows how spoke as like you're an absolute, legend in your own right.
Well, I don't know about that, but cheers, mate.
Of course. So a few little more questions obviously begin to wind down and stuff like that. What do you want your legacy to be in wrestling when you look back? What do you want your legacy to be?
To be really to be. I've never thought about that really, to be honest. What I would like to be, to know that I wasn't an arsehole.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many arseholes in the wrestling business. And I want, when everybody talks about me, I want everybody to say, what a nice person he was.
Yeah.
And that'll do for me.
That is a
He
great thing.
didn't play the politics. He didn't have an ego. He was always willing to help everybody. He was an overall nice person, and that'll do for me.
Of course. That's incredible. So one final question. Is there anything obviously you got planned for the rest of the year and stuff like that? Or is it just nice little chill?
No, I've got some fucking mental things coming up, mate. I've got a Bleeding Gums. I don't know, I'm wrestling on Bleeding Gums. Then I've got Big Tim Strange down in CXW in November.
Mm-hmm.
So both going to be mental, mate.
Wow,
So,
absolutely. I mean, Tim Strange is obviously a legend, obviously in his own right.
well, Tim Strange. I trained Tim Strange.
You did.
He came to WZW as a little scrawny 17-year-old kid from Canada. And I've known him for years, and basically Tim is just like another son to me.
Mm-hmm.
And when he told me he wanted to get into deathmatch wrestling, I was like, no, Tim, it's not for you, mate. It's not for you. But he's stuck to it like a duck to water. He's away in America now doing it.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? And he's like, I was like, Tim, you don't need to do it, mate. You don't need to do it. You've got the gimmick, you've got the talent. You know what I mean? You don't need to do it. But he fucking loves it, and the fans love him. And he took it to it like a duck to water.
Yeah, it is. I mean, the thing is, obviously, now when I think about it in the UK, is I see more death matches announced. Do you know what I mean? So it is obviously on the rise. Would you say,
Mate, I can't believe it. I only wish I was 10 years younger,
mm-hmm.
because I'd been enjoying it like nobody's business. If I was like my Jack's age, I'd be in my element, because what you got to realize, when I first started doing deathmatch wrestling, I brought it to England. There was nobody nowhere doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It was me who brought it to the UK. And I had to go to Germany to do deathmatch wrestling. Do you know what I mean? And slowly by surely, thanks to companies like Rise,
Mm-hmm.
deathmatch wrestling is getting more and more and more popular. And there's more and more shows coming up. And I'm loving it, mate. Honestly, I'm in the element.
Of course, of course. For people who's obviously not like seen a death match, what would you say to them?
You've got to see a deathmatch. It's like WWE mixed with the Howard Stern show, mixed with Always Sunny in Philadelphia, mixed with filth. That's what we had to explain it. And blood. Because you haven't lived until you've experienced deathmatch wrestling.
There you go. There you go. This has been absolute. Do you know what? I've never smiled so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, man.
Cheers, mate. We got there in the end.
We did. So, one final thing, mate. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
No, just if you could just, anybody interested in deathmatch wrestling, we've got Bleeding Gums Wrestling up in Scotland on I think it's the 16th of November, and then the following week we've got CXW Wrestling in Essex the following week. Then we've got Rise Wrestling on the 26th in Sheffield. If you in Deathmatch Wrestling, or you're very curious about Deathmatch Wrestling, hop to any one of those shows. You'll love it. You'll have the time of your life.
And of course, you're going to be there as well.
Yes, I am.
Of course. Guys, thanks for watching. Iceman, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Hope you've had a blast.
Me too, mate. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Cheers, pal. Cheers, guys.
Take care, pal.